Ever scanned your boarding pass only to be hit with a massive surprise fee at the last second? It's that cringy moment where you're left wondering, since when was that a rule? Welcome to flying in 2026. A wave of major changes has hit the industry, but airlines have quietly buried them deep inside the fine print nobody reads. It's a deliberate game. What you don't know is exactly what allows them to legally dig deeper into your wallet. Today, we're breaking down these traps one by one, from the fees that drain your budget to the new regulations that could leave you stranded at the gate. Once you know the play, you'll breeze through the airport like a pro. Stick around to make sure your next vacation doesn't turn into a total disaster. If you just scored a killer deal on a flight and think you're ahead of the game, brace yourself. A massive wave of luggage costs is hitting travelers' wallets this April. The biggest shocker comes from Southwest, the airline that practically built its brand on the bags fly free promise. Those days are officially history. Southwest has finally surrendered to the pricing pressure, charging $45 for the first bag and $55 for tickets booked from April 9th onward. If you book on autopilot expecting those freebies, that budget ticket might actually end up costing you more than a seat on a legacy carrier. But it's not just Southwest. The entire industry is squeezing us. Delta, United, and JetBlue have all pushed their rates up by an extra $10 per bag. Checking a suitcase on Delta now sits at around $45 for the first and $55 for the second. The real sting? If you show up with a third bag, be ready to shell out $200. In many cases, that's literally more than the price of a whole new domestic ticket. This industry-wide cash grab is being fueled by jet fuel prices hitting record highs due to Middle East tensions. Airlines are passing the bill straight to you, meaning a family of 4 on a round-trip vacation is now paying $80 to $160 more than they did just a few months ago. That's essentially a high-end vacation dinner traded for a few extra gallons of jet fuel. Despite the gloom, there are still a few ways to beat the system. On Southwest, the Rapid Rewards credit card is now your best friend, as it still covers that first bag fee. Or, if you book through their Getaways by Southwest vacation packages, you still get 2 free bags, just like the good old days. Business Select passengers and A-list members also get to keep their original perks. The pro tip for staying in control: never trust the initial sticker price. Taking 2 minutes to math out the total cost, bags included, before you click buy is the only way to avoid a total nightmare at the check-in counter. And don't think you can just sneak everything into a carry-on to bypass the gate. Staff are now on high alert, armed with metal sizers to scrutinize every single inch of your luggage. If it doesn't fit, you're paying the premium. The days of bending the rules by squeezing an oversized bag into the overhead bin are officially history. Gate agents at airlines like Spirit and Frontier are incentivized like never before. In fact, some agents receive a $10 commission for every oversized bag they catch and forced to be gate checked. They aren't just doing their jobs, they're basically on a bounty hunt for bulky luggage. If even a wheel or handle pokes out of that metal sizer, expect an immediate, non-negotiable charge of $25 to $75. A common trap here is trusting Amazon bags labeled carry-on approved. Many of these don't fully account for wheels and handles, which is exactly what agents are looking for. And with airlines enforcing size limits more aggressively than before, bags that used to slide by are now much more likely to get flagged before boarding. The move for 2026? Measure everything at home, wheels included. If it's even a little close to the limit, prepaying for a checked bag online is significantly cheaper than getting hit with a penalty fee during boarding. Testing your bag in the free sizers near the check-in counters early can also save a lot of stress and keep that extra $75 in your pocket where it belongs. For those who love living on the edge and waiting until the absolute last second to check in on your phones, United Airlines has officially ended that thrill ride. As of early 2026, United has tightened the screws on their check-in policy. Whether you have bags to check or not, you must now complete their check-in at least 45 minutes before a domestic flight. That 15-minute jump from the old rule might seem small, but in the airline world, it's a hard deadline. If you miss that window by even 1 second, the system is designed to automatically cancel the reservation and give that seat away to someone else. No exceptions, no negotiations. This gets especially risky for anyone flying basic economy, which is where United's most expensive traps are hidden. On these tickets, overhead bin space is strictly off limits. Passengers are only allowed one small personal item that fits under the seat in front of them. If you try to sneak a carry-on bag to the gate and get caught, you won't just be asked to check it, you'll be hit with a massive gate handling fee on top of the standard baggage charge. To keep things stress-free, the smart move is to be at the boarding gate at least 60 minutes before departure. It's all about not giving the airline a reason to bump you off a flight just because you didn't know the new rules of the game. But let's say you make it onto the plane, now your checked bag is starting its own risky adventure in the cargo hold. That's where Delta's latest policy changes come in. If a bag doesn't show up on the carousel, there is now an incredibly short window to act before those compensation perks totally vanish. Delta's 20-minute bag guarantee used to be our gold standard. If your luggage didn't hit the carousel within 20 minutes of landing, you scored 2,500 bonus miles. It sounded like a win-win. But in 2026, that guarantee comes with a major catch. Delta has quietly tightened the rules, slashing the claim window to just 2 hours after touchdown. If you get distracted at the Uber stand or stops for a slow latte, those miles evaporate before they even leave the airport. The pressure doesn't stop at the clock. Delta has also shifted the entire burden of proof for lost luggage onto the passenger. If a suitcase goes missing, the airline now demands a full paper trail, original receipts, purchase dates, and exact valuations for every single item inside. Without that documentation, claims are often flat out rejected or met with a lowball payout that barely covers the cost of the suitcase itself, let alone what was in it. The pro move to beat this system is simple but powerful. Before zipping up at home, lay everything out and take a high-res photo of the contents, the insides, not just the shell. Emailing that photo to yourself immediately creates a third-party, unalterable timestamp. This isn't just a memory. It's bulletproof evidence that makes it nearly impossible for the airline to lowball a claim. The moment it's clear a bag is a no-show, the clock is ticking. You need to snap a photo of the empty carousel and file the claim through the Delta app right there on the spot. Waiting until check-in at the hotel is a rookie mistake that usually means leaving 2,500 miles on the table. Keeping these receipts, digital and physical, is the only way to stay in the driver's seat. But while passengers are busy tracking their bags, the airport is busy tracking them. Beyond the luggage, there's another personal asset being handed over at every checkpoint: your face. Here's the secret behind those cameras staring everyone down at security. Next time you're cruising through airport security, keep an eye out for those sleek new cameras staring everyone down. That's the TSA's Cat 2 system, and it's already up and running at over 65 major airports. Most of us just line up, look at the lens, and move on, assuming it's mandatory, just like taking off shoes or removing belts. But here's the reality check. You are accidentally handing over your facial biometric data every single day without realizing you absolutely have the right to say no. TSA pushes this technology as a faster, more secure way to match an ID, but they remain pretty vague about where that digital facial scan actually goes. While they claim to delete the data within 14 days, plenty of privacy experts are worried it could end up fossilized in federal databases forever. The important thing to remember is that once a face is digitized and entered into the system, it's impossible to unscan it. Fortunately, beating this system is incredibly easy and won't cause any trouble. When it's your turn, you just need to tell the officer clearly, "I'd like to opt out of facial recognition," The agent will simply switch to a manual ID, check the old school way. This might add about 30 seconds to the process, but in exchange, your privacy and your face remain theirs alone. There are no penalties, no extra screening. It's just a personal choice that you should know you have. Keeping control over personal digital data at the airport is crucial, because in this day and age, that data is the most valuable asset a person has. If your driver's license is missing that tiny gold star in the top right corner, it's time to pay attention, because that missing icon could trigger a $45 fee right at the security checkpoint. Since the Real ID crackdown began on February 1st, the TSA's new Confirm ID system has become a costly hurdle for travelers without a compliant ID or a passport. What makes this even more frustrating is that this identity verification fee only lasts for 10 days. That means anyone on a long-distance round trip could be forced to shell out another $45 for the flight back, totaling nearly $100 just to walk through the security gate. The smartest move you can make is to check your license today to avoid throwing away $45 every time you fly. If that gold star is missing, booking an appointment with the DMV should be the top priority. Getting a Real ID sorted out once and for all completely removes the stress of identity hiccups before a flight. Don't buy into the viral hacks claiming liquid rules are dead. As we move through 2026, the dreaded 311 rule is still very much the law of the land, and that expensive skincare set is still at risk of being trashed by security. The formula is exactly the same as it was in 2010. Liquids must be 3.4 ounces, 100 milliliters or less, all fitting into a single quart-sized clear bag. The only thing that has changed is the tech. Major hubs like O'Hare, DFW, and Miami have rolled out high-tech 3D CT scanners. If you're lucky enough to hit one of these smart lanes, you can actually breeze through without digging out your laptop or your toiletries. But here's the catch: that gear is pricey, and most smaller airports are still stuck with Stone Age equipment. If you assume every airport is high-tech and doesn't pack to code, you'll end up in that classic nightmare holding up a massive line while they fish out an oversized tube of toothpaste. Unless you're 100% sure about the tech at your specific gate, just pack the traditional way. A few extra minutes of prep at home is a small price to pay to keep your favorite products out of the airport trash can. Mastering these rules turns a potential security disaster into a smooth, tech-forward stroll. Amidst the sea of price hikes and headaches, there's actually some win for travelers coming from the DOT. First up, a huge lifesaver for parents. The DOT is now pushing airlines to guarantee that kids 13 and under sit next to at least one accompanying adult for zero extra fees. While it's not a universal law yet, several major airlines have already signed on. If an airline has made this commitment but can't seat a family together at booking, they typically offer two choices: a full refund or a seat on a different flight with adjacent spots for free. One tiny but crucial detail: everyone needs to be on the same booking reference for this magic to work. Even better, the era of sitting on hold for hours begging for a refund is officially over. Under new DOT rules, if an airline cancels a flight or has a significant delay, they must automatically refund the money to the original payment method. Significant is now strictly defined as over 3 hours for domestic flights and over 6 hours for international ones. This even applies to add-ons. If you pay for Wi-Fi or a seat upgrade that the airline fails to provide, they're getting that money back immediately. However, it's still smart not to leave everything to the robots. You should always keep receipts by screenshotting delay times and saving every expense. If you get stuck overnight, you shouldn't just walk away. You should head straight to the gate agent and ask about customer service policies. Many airlines are now required to provide meal vouchers or hotel stays for qualifying delays. If a trip to Paris or a summer in Italy is on the calendar, get ready. Passports are about to get a whole different kind of workout. As of April 10th, the European Union has officially flipped the switch on the entry-exit system across all Schengen borders. The days of waiting for a simple ink stamp and a "have a nice trip" are over. Now, every time you enter or leave Europe, your facial image and fingerprints are digitally recorded. With over 45 million border crossings already logged this way, this isn't a pilot program anymore, it's the new standard. The first time through this process can be a bit confusing and adds a few extra minutes at the automated gates. A great pro tip for couples or families: complete the EES registration together the first time so everyone stays in the same lane, avoiding that awkward wait where one person clears security while the rest are stuck behind. It's also smart to buffer in extra time for connecting flights within Europe, as these new scanning procedures can definitely slow down the flow of the crowd. But that's not the only change. Keep an eye on the end of 2026, because that's when ETIAS officially kicks in. It's basically the European version of the ESTA system used to enter the US. American travelers will need to apply online before they fly, for a fee of about €7. It's cheap and fast, but here's the kicker. Without this digital authorization, airlines won't even let you board the plane, let alone catch a glimpse of the Eiffel Tower. Europe is going digital to tighten up security, so staying updated is the only way to make sure a dream vacation doesn't get derailed by paperwork. Getting these digital ducks in a row early ensures the trip stays about the sights, not the bureaucracy. Planning a trip to see Big Ben or catch a game in London this year? There is a new golden rule every traveler needs to memorize: no ETA, no flight. As of February 25th, simply having a powerful US passport isn't enough to check in for a flight to the UK anymore. The British government now requires an electronic travel authorization (ETA), which costs between £10 and £20. Airlines have turned into strict hall monitors for this rule. They will block you from boarding immediately if the system doesn't show an approved code. Why? Because the airlines don't want to get slapped with massive fines from the UK government. To avoid a total nightmare at the airport, getting that online registration done at least 3 days before departure is a must. There is a specific heads up for dual citizens too. If you hold a British or Irish passport, don't apply for an ETA. You actually have to use that passport to enter. But even with an approved ETA in hand, there is another trap that can get you kicked off a plane right at the boarding gate: the physical health of the passport itself. In this high-tech era of 2026, gate agents are becoming incredibly picky about the condition of that little blue book. There have been tons of stories lately about people being denied boarding at the last minute because of a tiny rip on the info page, a small water stain over the photo, or even just some unofficial decorative stickers on the cover. Damage that used to be ignored is now being flagged as an invalid document. The best advice is to pull that passport out right now and give it a close look. If it looks a little trashed or has any signs of peeling, getting it replaced now is much better than getting turned away at the gate. Despite all the headaches with baggage fees and Real ID drama, there are still some super tools that can make the airport experience feel like a VIP lounge. The big three, MPC, Global Entry, and Clear Plus, are basically essential if you want to avoid standing in line until your feet go numb. The best kept secret for anyone who hates spending money is the Mobile Passport Control MPC app. It's a free, official app from US Customs that lets travelers submit their entry info on their phone before they even reach the officer. It's currently accepted at over 50 airports, allowing you to breeze past the massive crowds stuck in the standard lanes. For those hitting the international terminal at least twice a year, Global Entry is still the undisputed king. A cool new update for 2026 is that kiosks are becoming more flexible, making the re-entry process smoother than ever. Then there's Clear Plus, which is the fastest way to get through the ID check. The important thing to remember is that Clear Plus only speeds up the paperwork side. It doesn't skip the actual security scan. The ultimate pro move is pairing Clear with TSA PreCheck to basically own every priority lane in the building. By the end of 2026, Facial recognition boarding gates will be the standard at almost every international terminal in the US. Instead of fumbling with paper tickets or passports, you just scan your face and walk right on. Just like at the security checkpoint, anyone uncomfortable with this has the right to say no. A quick request for a manual check keeps your biometric data out of the system. The future of travel is moving fast toward a touchless era. Digital passports are expanding quickly, allowing people to keep all their vital docs secure right on their phones. To stay ahead of the curve, it's all about mastering the travel trio, keeping the passport, ID, and phone ready to go in one spot. A little tech savviness goes a long way in turning a chaotic travel day into a total breeze. After all the massive shifts in the industry this year, the big question is how to keep a dream vacation from turning into a total paperwork nightmare. It's not about how much money you spend, it's about how well you know the rules of the game. To keep things moving, here are the 5 absolute essentials for a smooth flight. First, no matter how high-tech things get, never leave home without a physical real ID or a hard copy passport. Digital IDs are cool, but if a scanner glitches or a phone dies, that physical backup is the only thing keeping you from getting stuck at the checkpoint. Second, always pack like a traditionalist. Even with new scanners, it's safest to assume the TSA is being extra strict. So sticking to the 311 liquid rule prevents any awkward digging through a suitcase in a long line. Third, if the destination is Europe, checking the EES registration and having that ETIAS ready is a must. Forgetting these digital permits is the fastest way to get denied at the boarding gate before the trip even starts. Fourth, use a smartphone as a black box for evidence. Under the new refund laws, screenshotting every delay and saving every receipt is the only way to get money back from an airline without a fight. Finally, if you're not using mobile passport control or global entry, you're essentially choosing to stand in line. These tools are total game changers for breezing through customs while everyone else is still waiting on their luggage. At the end of the day, traveling in 2026 isn't necessarily harder, it just rewards you for prepping. With these 5 moves, the world is still wide open and ready to be explored. Now, I've got to ask, what's the one travel nightmare you're most terrified of hitting you this year? Is it the surprise baggage fees or getting stuck in a 3-hour security line? Drop your horror stories or your best save in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next aviation deep dives. Thanks for watching.